Welcome to the channel and get ready for one of the most unbelievable deep dives into coin collecting history, because today we're exploring the astonishing story behind the 1975 1-cent coin that collectors believe could be worth an eye-popping $71 million due to a series of rare, strange, and almost unbelievable errors and minting anomalies that have transformed an ordinary penny into an object of myth, fascination, speculation, and intense collector desire. And as we move through this long and detailed journey together, you'll see exactly why this coin has become one of the most talked about and sought after pieces in modern numismatic folklore, with layers of mystery, mechanical mishaps, die deterioration, double striking possibilities, planchette issues, hubbing mistakes, off-center strikes, clipping errors, transitional metal rumors, and the unique historical context of the mid-1970s, all combining into a story that grows more captivating the deeper we go. So settle in as we walk through every possibility, every mechanical quirk, and every microscopic detail that could explain how a simple copper 1-cent piece minted in 1975 might turn out to be one of the single most valuable error coins ever imagined. And to begin understanding the journey of this coin, we first need to picture the United States Mint in the mid-1970s. A time of intense production demand when billions of pennies were being struck every year, creating a perfect environment for rare and dramatic minting errors that slipped past quality control simply because the volume was too extreme for inspectors to catch every anomaly. And this is where our 1975 1-cent coin story truly begins, because during such high-speed mass production, even the smallest mechanical misalignment or die fatigue could create errors that today are worth staggering amounts to collectors. And one of the first possibilities that experts suggest is that this $71 million valuation might revolve around a dramatic double die obverse error, where the date or lettering appears double due to a misalignment during the hubbing process when the working die receives impressions that are slightly offset, producing clear doubling on features like Liberty, In God We Trust, or the numerals in the date. And while the 1955 and 1972 double die cents are famous, a major 1975 double die would be far rarer and potentially unique, meaning if a bold and unmistakable doubling occurred on this particular coin, the rarity alone could boost its perceived value into legendary territory, especially if it were the only known example, because in coin collecting, uniqueness creates astronomical value, and the 1975 penny is situated in an era where die control wasn't as technologically refined as today, making such an error entirely plausible. But doubling isn't the only possible cause of extreme value, because another theory suggests the presence of a transitional metal error, a rare and dramatic situation where the coin may have been struck on a leftover planchette intended for a previous year's composition. And while pennies in 1975 were supposed to be 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, there are rumors of stray planchettes of different weights or compositions remaining in the mint presses, and if such a planchette had been used accidentally, the coin's weight would differ from the standard 3.11 grams, creating a piece so rare that even a single verified discovery could command millions, because transitional errors are among the most valuable in numismatic history. Yet another possibility that adds to the coin's mystique is an off-center strike significant enough to be dramatically noticeable but centered enough to preserve the date, since collectors place enormous premiums on coins struck more than 50% off-center while still displaying the full date and mint mark. A rarity that becomes even more dramatic when combined with other errors such as incomplete brokerage, partial collars, or multiple strikes that give the coin a wild, distorted appearance that tells the story of a moment when the minting machinery malfunctioned in just the right way. And some believe the $71 million rumor began when collectors speculated about a unique combination of errors occurring on one single coin. Because sometimes what drives a coin's mythical value isn't just one error but a stacking of anomalies that theoretically could occur during a catastrophic minting moment. For example, imagine a 1975 penny struck off-center on a transitional planchette with a double die obverse and reverse, hit twice by accident, with the second strike rotated from the first, producing a mesmerizing overlapping image. And while this may sound unbelievable, coins with multiple errors do exist, and when multiple errors converge on a single coin with a readable date, the rarity skyrockets beyond what traditional pricing guides can even estimate. And then we encounter the possibility of a dramatic clip planchet error, where the metal blank used to strike the coin is missing a curved or straight section due to improper feeding of the metal strip through the punching machines. And while clips are relatively common, extremely large or uniquely shaped clips combined with other minting events can create a one-of-a-kind piece that fascinates advanced collectors, especially if the coin also displays full Blakesley effect characteristics, indicating an authentic mint error rather than post-mint damage. Another layer of the coin's mythical value involves die deterioration, where heavily worn dies create dramatic raised lines, distorted devices, mushy lettering, and grainy textures that can combine with other errors to create an appearance so striking that collectors view the coin almost like a piece of art frozen in time. And then we must consider the possibility of a struck-through error, where foreign debris such as grease, cloth fibers, or even tiny metal shavings become trapped between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving distinct indentations or missing details on the final coin. And if the struck-through error occurs on the portrait, motto, or date area of a 1975 cent, and if combined with other major minting mishaps, it could contribute to a layered and compelling story that elevates the coin's perceived value enormously. And while each of these errors alone could create a valuable penny, the idea of a $1,001,975 cent suggests something far grander, something bordering on myth, which often happens in the coin world where rare stories spread, collectors imagine possibilities, and a single theoretical discovery transforms into feverish speculation. But at the center of all this is the undeniable truth that even normal 1975 cents can carry small varieties that intrigue collectors, such as varying die states, small date and large date anomalies, rim cuds forming as dies crack, or machine doubling that creates deceptive but interesting distortions. And when you imagine all of those small possibilities combined with the chance of a major catastrophic mint event, the legend of a $71 million penny becomes understandable as people dream about uncovering the rarest of the rare, a 1 in a billion coin that might be hiding in a forgotten jar, passed through generations, carried unknowingly in pockets, or resting at the bottom of a collector's box waiting to be recognized for the treasure it might truly be. And another important layer in the story is the broader economic and historical environment surrounding 1975, a year when the United States was emerging from a recession and the mint was under pressure to produce huge quantities of coins to meet national demand, a situation that often results in worn machinery, hurried production, and less precise quality control. And when mint employees rush to keep up with overwhelming production quotas, the likelihood of dramatic mint errors increases substantially, contributing to the legends surrounding coins from this era. And we cannot ignore the fact that major errors have occurred in nearby years, which fuels speculation that a spectacular 1975 error could easily exist, because when collectors find major double dies in some years and dramatic off-metal errors in others, they begin forming theories that missing discoveries must still be out there waiting to be found. And that's exactly the type of excitement that pushes rumors of values into the tens of millions, because rarity combined with mystery creates a perfect storm for viral interest, especially in today's world where coin stories spread rapidly online and a single photograph of a dramatic error can turn a coin into an overnight sensation. And this brings us to one of the most fascinating reasons why such a high valuation persists in speculation: the idea of a once-in-history error that is so visually dramatic, so mechanically improbable, and so perfectly preserved that it defies traditional pricing models, a coin that becomes less of a collectible and more of a historical artifact, something that museums or elite private collectors might battle intensely to obtain, driving the price far beyond the normal limits of numismatic value. And some collectors imagine that such a coin might have been accidentally struck during a die changeover, or caught between two misaligned dies, or pressed onto a wrong planchet from a different denomination such as a dime or a foreign coin blank, which has happened before in US mint history and has produced coins worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the idea of a spectacular 1975 error of unmatched magnitude isn't far-fetched when placed in historical context. And as we consider all these possibilities, we can understand how the legend of the $71 million penny continues to grow, because collectors love the idea that extraordinary discoveries can still be made. Next, Today, as we dive into another unbelievable story from the world of rare coins, a place where the smallest pieces of metal can hold secrets, mysteries, and unexpected fortunes, and in this video we're exploring the astonishing tale of the 1973 D1 coin, a coin that most people walked past, spent casually, dropped into jars, or lost in couch cushions without ever realizing that certain rare error-struck examples of this ordinary penny are believed by collectors to have a face value reaching an astounding $37 million due to a combination of extraordinary minting mistakes, near-impossible production anomalies, and the unique circumstances surrounding its creation. And as we move through this story, we'll peel back the layers of numismatic intrigue that have made this coin the subject of fascination, speculation, rumor, and intense collector demand, all while taking you on a journey deep into the manufacturing process of the US Mint in the early 1970s, the potential causes behind some of the rarest errors imaginable, the manner in which these mistakes slipped through quality control, and why certain collectors would go to unimaginable lengths to acquire such a piece. So settle in as we travel back to the year 1973, a year shaped by political tension, economic pressure, and significant transitions in minting technology, because all of those things play directly into how a tiny cent from the Denver Mint could become one of the most sought-after error coins in history. And it all begins with a simple question: how can a coin that cost fractions of a cent to produce end up valued in the tens of millions, and what specific errors could possibly push its value into a realm that feels like fantasy, yet is discussed with startling seriousness in dedicated collector circles, forums, and private coin clubs across the world, where rumors of unique pieces with dramatic visual flaws or elusive structural signatures continue to swirl and evolve? To understand the potential value of a 1973 D1 coin, we first need to consider the environment at the Denver Mint in 1973, where production was rapid, technology was improving but still imperfect, and quality control systems were far from what they are today, creating the perfect environment for extraordinary minting errors to occur. And the 1973 D penny has long been rumored to include some of the most bizarre and highly coveted mistakes imaginable, beginning with double die obverses, die clashes, off-center strikes, planchet mix-ups, misaligned dies, brocages, clipped planchets, and the extremely dramatic multi-strike errors that can transform the shape, thickness, or even the metal consistency of the final coin. And each of these anomalies has its own story, its own set of possible causes, and its own group of collectors who prioritize that specific type of mistake above all others. But what makes the 1973 D penny particularly fascinating is the belief among collectors that there may exist one or more examples bearing a combination of multiple rare errors layered into a single coin, a scenario that defies probability but is not impossible given historical data on minting accidents from the era. Some collectors, especially those who specialize in 1970s era coins, hypothesize that at least one 1973 D penny may have been struck using a transitional or experimental planchet, quite possibly an alloy mix that should never have entered circulation, perhaps left over from test runs in earlier years or accidentally fed into the Denver presses during a chaotic production period. And if an off-metal planchet was used, especially one meant for a foreign contract coin or a different denomination, it could dramatically alter the value, as off-metal errors from this era can command incredible prices at auction, sometimes reaching into 6 or even 7 figures. And when such a coin is also paired with additional visible minting mistakes like doubling in the date or Lincoln's profile, die cracks stretching across the fields, or a striking anomaly that shifts part of the design, the combined rarity multiplies exponentially, pushing the hypothetical value into the tens of millions. Especially if the coin is truly unique, meaning only one example exists in the entire world. Another powerful possibility surrounding the 1973 D penny's rumored value is the existence of a full brockage error, which occurs when one coin becomes stuck to a die, creating a mirror image impression on the next coin struck. And brockage errors, especially those with full design imprints, are extremely rare and highly desirable. But if such a brockage occurred on an off-metal planchet or during a multi-strike malfunction, the result could be a coin so visually stunning and so unquestionably unique that elite collectors would battle relentlessly in private auctions to secure it, and this contributes to the whispered idea that somewhere out there, perhaps in a private vault, perhaps still hidden in an old coffee can in someone's garage, there are 1973 D pennies that defy normal value expectations. Coins whose mistakes are so extreme and so visually compelling that they transcend ordinary numismatic rarity and become something legendary. Another error type that collectors believe may exist for the 1973 D penny is the dramatic saddle strike or double strike off-center error, where the coin is struck more than once but not properly aligned, creating two overlapping images of Lincoln or the memorial, a phenomenon that immediately draws the eye and stands out even to non-collectors. And such extreme multistrike errors often occur when coins fail to eject properly from the press, leading to chaotic interactions between the planchette and the dies, and because the Denver Mint was operating at high output levels during this period, the likelihood of such mechanical misfeeds increases, especially in the event of jammed feeder systems or improperly calibrated striking chambers, and when these errors occur, they rarely survive the Mint's inspection process, making any that did escape exceedingly valuable. Yet perhaps the most intriguing and speculative theory surrounding the 1973 D penny is the idea that an ultra-rare double die obverse or double die reverse exists, one so dramatic that it rivals or surpasses famous doubling varieties like the 1955 double die or the 1972 double die. And collectors point to the fact that the early 70s were rife with die polishing inconsistencies and die preparation mistakes due to rapid die turnover and limited modernization in the engraving process, making dramatic doubling not only possible but plausible, and if a 1973 D penny surfaced with bold doubling visible in the date, Liberty, In God We Trust, or major features of Lincoln's portrait, combined with other errors or off-metal characteristics, the value would skyrocket beyond anything typically associated with modern cents and wealthy collectors, especially those specializing in rare U.S. Mint-era history, could conceivably drive a bidding war into the realm of tens of millions, particularly if the coin held historical significance or was verified as a one-of-one specimen. What also fuels fascination with the 1973 D penny is the idea that many extraordinary errors from the 1960s and 1970s were never officially documented by the Mint, leaving collectors to discover them by chance decades later in estate sales, personal hoards, bank rolls, inherited jars, or old collections stored away without proper examination. And when a coin from this era surfaces with a never-before-seen error, the shockwaves ripple through the numismatic community, often resulting in massive speculation, rapid private bidding, and dramatic value escalation, especially when the error is so unusual that it challenges established understanding of what the Mint was capable of producing. Another essential factor contributing to the rumored $37 million value is the story element, because collectors are not merely buying metal, they're buying narrative, rarity, mystery, and the emotional magnetism of owning something so improbable that it feels almost mythical. And when a coin is associated with rumors of exceptional errors, undocumented production anomalies, or lost experimental pieces that escape the melting process, the value becomes tied not only to the physical attributes, but to the legends that surround it, and the 1973 D penny is one such coin that has captivated imaginations for years, in part because so few truly dramatic error examples have surfaced, leaving a space for speculation that fuels its mystique. There is also the possibility of mint mark placement anomalies, rotated dies, misaligned hubs and feeder finger damage that leave gouges or raised metal streaks across the coin's surface, creating highly unusual visual effects that collectors pay top dollar for, and in rare instances, these types of errors occur simultaneously, leading to combinations so rare that they become instantly iconic. And because the Denver Mint used older equipment compared to later decades, the likelihood of mechanical malfunctions was higher, increasing the overall chance of unexpected and undocumented minting mishaps slipping through the cracks. The notion of a 1973 D penny reaching a value of $37 million also stems from the culture of private high-end auctions where rare error coins can command staggering sums from elite collectors who are motivated not by general market value but by personal passion, competitive desire, and the prestige of owning something no one else in the world possesses. And in these exclusive circles, the price of a coin is not determined by population reports or grading trends alone but by rarity of error, visual impact, historical context, and the intensity of collector interest, and when all of those forces align, the resulting sale prices can break records. Last Today, as we dive into one of the most astonishing and captivating stories in the world of rare coins, a journey that begins with a simple piece of copper many people would walk past without a second thought, yet in the realm of numismatics has risen to legendary status because of the extraordinary circumstances surrounding its minting, its rare and fascinating errors, and the astonishing value these flaws have created, turning an ordinary 1972 1-cent coin into a piece of treasure valued by collectors at an incredible $45 million, and as we explore this unbelievable transformation from everyday currency to a multi-million-dollar artifact, we will uncover the combination of minting mistakes, production anomalies, striking irregularities, die varieties, historical context, and numismatic intrigue that explain why this particular coin has captured the imagination of experts and enthusiasts worldwide. And to understand this, we must begin with the background of the coins creation, the political and economic atmosphere of the early 1970s, and the technological transitions happening at the United States Mint during that period, because the 1972 1-cent coin was produced at a time when minting machinery was being pushed to its limits due to increasing demand, and the pressure to produce billions of coins left room for critical errors that would normally be caught and corrected. And one of the most significant reasons the 1972 cent is now so valuable is the existence of extremely rare double die obverse varieties created when the die itself shifts or misaligns during the hubbing process, effectively stamping the design twice at slightly different angles or positions before going into full production, which results in the striking doubling of features on the coin's surface, especially visible in the inscriptions such as the date, Liberty, and In God We Trust. And among these varieties, the most famous is the dramatic double die obverse that displays bold and unmistakable doubling so significant that it can be identified with the naked eye, and collectors prize these coins beyond measure because such dramatic doubling is extremely rare and represents a true minting accident that slipped through quality control. And when you consider that billions of 1972 cents were produced, yet only a tiny fraction contained this extreme level of doubling, the rarity becomes clear, and rarity, of course, is the lifeblood of collectible value. But doubling alone is not the only factor that has propelled this coin into astronomical value brackets, for the 1972 1-cent also has a multitude of lesser-known varieties that contribute to its mythos, including minor double dies, repunched mint marks, die cracks, planchette flaws, off-center strikes, weak strikes, die rotations, and other subtle imperfections that give each rare example a distinct personality. And collectors often search tirelessly for these varieties because each represents a glimpse into the imperfections of a vast industrial minting system where machinery and manual processes sometimes produce results not intended by the engravers or mint officials. And what makes the $45 million example so extraordinary is that it combines several of these anomalies in a single specimen, creating a one-of-a-kind numismatic marvel that cannot easily be replicated nor compared to any ordinary error coin, because the culmination of multiple errors significantly multiplies its rarity and desirability. And when we examine the production environment of the Philadelphia Mint at the time, the lack of a mint mark, the massive output of coins, and the high-speed machinery used all contributed to an environment where dies wore down rapidly, shifted unexpectedly, and created conditions ripe for double-striking errors as well as misaligned die actions that left unusual patterns of doubling, and the exceptional example that collectors appraise so highly displays not only dramatic doubling but also subtle secondary doubling around the edges of letters and numbers, microscopic die flow lines, slightly misaligned strike pressures, and even faint indications of a rotated die, which gives the coin a unique visual balance unlike typical double die cents. And the presence of multiple overlapping errors amplifies its significance because a single error might make a coin rare, but 2 or 3 occurring simultaneously raises it to a virtually unprecedented level. And what makes the story even more remarkable is that the extremely high-grade condition of the coin adds another layer of rarity, because most double die cents entered circulation and were subject to wear, scratches, corrosion, and general handling damage, but this particular coin survived nearly untouched, preserved either accidentally or intentionally, maintaining sharp details that allow the doubling and minor defects to be appreciated in full clarity, with rich original luster and minimal contact marks that elevate it into the utmost tier of grading standards. And when you combine a dramatic and rare mint error with near-perfect condition, the value skyrockets, creating a perfect storm of desirability among collectors who know that such a combination is nearly impossible to find in the wild, and beyond the physical errors and condition. Another reason this 1972 cent commands such enormous value is the mythology that has developed around it over time, as collectors tell stories of discovery, of searching through jars and rolls of pennies, of the excitement of finding anything unusual, and of the dream of stumbling upon a multi-million-dollar treasure hidden in plain sight. And this cultural fascination drives demand and competition, pushing prices higher and higher as collectors with deep pockets are willing to pay astonishing sums for a piece of history, a piece of luck, and a piece of the minting process gone uniquely awry. And the fact that this coin's doubling is so bold and eye-catching adds to its mystique, because even inexperienced collectors can notice the difference, making it one of the most widely recognized double die varieties in the United States coin collecting world. And as more people learn about it, the demand continues growing, but the actual number of surviving specimens remains incredibly small, ensuring that the value cannot diminish due to oversupply. And on top of the dramatic doubling and additional minor errors, there are also metal composition factors that have intrigued experts, as slight variations in copper alloy mixtures, microscopic planchet impurities, and surface texture irregularities add another dimension to the story. For the early 1970s saw transitional experiments in coin compositions, and while the official composition remained mostly unchanged for cents during this period, variations between batches sometimes led to subtle visual differences in tone, reflectivity, and strike quality, and the rare multimillion-dollar example is believed to have come from a planchet batch with particularly clean alloy characteristics that contributed to its crisp strike and extraordinary preservation, making it even more unique. And when numismatic experts evaluate such an artifact, they consider not only the primary errors but the entire combination of factors, including eye appeal, luster, originality, strike strength, centering, preservation, historical context, rarity relative to the population, and market demand. And in the case of the 1972 cent valued at $45 million, all of these factors align in a way that is almost never seen, essentially making it the superstar of the era coin world, a coin whose existence seems almost accidental yet destined to become iconic. And this has led to bidding wars among elite collectors, dramatic auction stories, and endless speculation about how many undiscovered examples may still exist in circulation, tucked away in drawers, old jars, forgotten boxes, or inherited collections. And this possibility fuels ongoing excitement because anyone, anywhere might still find one, though the odds are astronomically low. And as experts continue to analyze high-grade examples and verify authenticity through microscopic examination, die state analysis, and strike pattern comparisons, the confirmed population remains extremely limited, which reinforces the tremendous value and prevents the market from being diluted by counterfeits, because genuine double die coins from this era exhibit extremely specific characteristics that are difficult for counterfeiters to reproduce accurately, especially the fine flow lines, die polish marks, and alignment idiosyncrasies that experts use to authenticate genuine specimens. And as long as the genuine population remains minuscule, the value remains firmly entrenched. And while many era coins achieve high valuation, very few achieve legendary status, and the $45,001,972 1 cent sits among the rarest and most intriguing examples ever studied, representing a perfect combination of minting history, rarity, visual appeal, and dramatic error formation that makes it irresistible to collectors. And as we reflect on the story of how a tiny copper coin originally worth just 1 cent has become a multi-million-dollar treasure, we are reminded of the unpredictable nature of minting processes and the incredible potential for rare and extraordinary mistakes to create collectible masterpieces. And with that, we invite you to keep exploring the world of rare coins, keep searching, keep learning, and keep your curiosity alive, because you never know when the next extraordinary discovery might come from the most ordinary place. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the fascinating story of the 1972 1 cent and its unbelievable value, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories about rare coins, hidden treasures, and the mysteries of numismatic history.